Hey, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversation.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion, but we've been lucky enough to write, produce, and hang out with so many incredible rising artists since we started our project.
Whether it's at sessions or parties or over cups of coffee, we've talked with our creative friends about everything. Music, life, love, and all the subtle complexities that come with being in the middle of a journey.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on these conversations and sharing them with you. There's no real structure, nothing really prepared, just friends talking about life and what it's been like and where it's going. Before diving into this episode, I want to acknowledge that this is coming out in the middle of what feels like a revolution. Right now, there are protesters in the street of every major city protesting the unjust, violent murder of George Floyd and the systematic racism that's plagued this country. We stand with the protesters and hope that their voices are heard. Likewise, we encourage our listeners, if you have the means, to donate to organizations that are helping to protect these protesters and their communities. The Black Lives Matter website, the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund, and the Black Visions Collective are all great organizations that could use your support right now. Also, to any artist with a platform listening, please use your platform for good to amplify and support what's going on right now. Don't just watch and stay silent. We hope everybody's staying safe, and we do hope you enjoy this episode, but don't let it distract or detract from what's going on right now. Diving back in.
We recorded this episode with our longtime friend, Miette.
I first met Miette virtually before we both started our freshman year at Berklee College of Music. In the winter after our first semester, we went on a cross-country DIY folk tour together before we ultimately started our own artist projects. All to say, we've known each other for a very long time.
Some context for this interview. We recorded this on January 30th, a few months before the quarantine started. Miette had just performed at the Troubadour and recently released her EP, Pendulum. In our conversation, we mentioned a song we wrote together called Balance, which at the time was just a demo sitting on our hard drive. But since this interview was recorded, we revisited Balance and will be releasing it as a single on June 4th.
Miette has been a part of our journey from the beginning, and we've been cheering each other on for years. She's truly a one-of-a-kind artist and friend whose powerful songs and incredible voice have the ability to effortlessly inspire everyone who matches her energy. So,
without further ado,
I'm Miette Hope, and this is Talking Lion.
well, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the house. Welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
First time you were here, there was no furniture at all. I think we were all just like sitting on the floor in what would be the kind of studio space.
Wasn't the mattress in this room at one point while you were here?
There happened to be a mattress down in the living room.
Oh, no, it was downstairs.
Yeah.
And it worked out super well because I needed a place to crash.
And so it was just right in the middle of the living room.
It was just there.
Yeah.
And I was, So well, it just kind of worked out.
I think our landlord left a mattress and was like, it's yours if you want it.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, we were like, well, we can't say no to a mattress. Like, we need to...
But the mattress was upstairs at one point.
I'm not
crazy,
there
right?
were two mattresses.
It was your mattress.
No, he gave us...
There were two mattresses?
There were two mattresses. He gave us this sort of like king-size mattress.
Oh, right.
Which was crazy. And then he gave us like the twin-size mattress.
Right.
That for some reason was up here.
Yeah, that was the session mattress for a while. We would like lie down on it if you had writer's block.
Session mattress.
Yeah.
But that was fun. We wound up writing Balance... that's a cool song. We'll
that is a cool song.
Revisit that one. But you're here now. You just played the Troubadour, which was incredible.
Thank you.
There's something really special about just seeing somebody like you care about just like on the Troubadour stage. Like that's something else. What was that show like for you?
It was a super pivotal moment for me. I've been coming over to LA for the past year and a half or so since I graduated school and just kind of trying to make a name for myself in the major cities. And I was coming and playing the trusty Hotel Cafe quite a few times. And I think last time around, I just kind of made a vow to myself that it was time to move on to a bigger, better venue.
Well, you brought it. I mean, that was like everybody was locked in. Like you could feel it in the crowd. There was like a very cool energy about it.
Yeah, I have Josh Arbor at Sound Collective to thank for putting the bill together and kind of bringing the opportunity forward. He's a really awesome local booker in town. And he presented the opportunity to me and was super encouraging about like my ability to bring people out because I was a little nervous about that.
But also like all our friends are out here. Like I wasn't super worried about you because like you Like, you know everybody.
Pretty much our entire Berkeley class lives out here now.
Yeah.
They've all migrated.
Yeah.
Going back pre-Berkeley, you're a Coloradan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm originally from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was born in Minnesota, but I moved to Colorado when I was pretty young, so I consider myself a native.
What was growing up there like? I mean, I've seen your hometown, but you know, what was high school Miette like? Was she making music? Like, what were you up to?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up in a music community. My parents were playing in bands. My mom is a singer-songwriter, and my stepdad plays guitar. And yeah,
Shout out to Edith Makes a Paper Chain.
Yeah, Edith Makes a Paper Chain. That's my mom's band, and you know, they had kind of a folky bluegrass thing going on, and I would always go and you know play in the mud and hang out and listen to bluegrass music at these festivals growing up. And Edith Makes a Paper Chain was one of the first bands to open up this legendary festival called Bluegrass, where I've heard so many amazing folk artists. Yeah, and so I kind of grew up always around that stuff and taught myself guitar. I think it was around that point that I decided I should stop playing clarinet.
I didn't know you played clarinet.
Yeah, I played clarinet.
So your first instrument was clarinet?
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, well, actually it was cello, I think. Okay. And then I moved on to woodwinds and realized I couldn't sing and it would just take a little bit too much breath. I mean, there's not a lot of oxygen in Colorado, so I kind of had to make a choice.
Yeah,
I learned that the hard way. Do you remember New Year's Eve when I died?
Oh, yeah.
I smoked and I coughed. And then in
had
coughing,
no oxygen.
I couldn't get the oxygen back. Like I went lightheaded and I pretty much passed out for the rest of New Year's. That was New Year's of going into 2015.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we crazily enough decided to go on a DIY tour.
Oh my God!
What, like maybe a month after meeting each other?
Really, a month after? Well, it's funny because I was thinking back on stuff, especially thinking back when you're playing the Troubadour, just trying to see like all the full circles. But I was in Boston for a sec, like doing the Berkeley, not even orientation, but just like seeing the place or something. Mm-hmm. And I was staying at like a family friend's house, and it was late, and I was also really nervous because I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Berkeley, I'm gonna do this, but I want to make friends, and I want to make friends before I get there.
You wanted to have like a leg up socially.
Yeah, well, it was just I just didn't want to be alone because I had my best friends, and in a lot of ways I was like, I'm leaving this place for. So I like went on the Facebook group, and I think it was one of those things where it's like you had posted something, like Valentine had posted something, just some of our friends now who we've known for a long time. I was like, hey, like what's up? And you replied, hey, what's your deal? What are you up to? So we wound up Skyping for a while.
Right. So
like
yeah,
6 months.
we became friends in the Berkeley chat, and then kind of hit it off. Got started talking about gear because you were asking me about my loop pedal.
Yeah, well, because I just started getting into loop, and I saw your loop video and thought it was awesome. And then I had the inklings of like wanting to do a tour, which I don't know where that even came from. Looking back, I'm like, that was a crazy idea.
I think you just wanted a project. I think you needed like a project from the jump, like just something to be doing from the get-go.
That's just Nate in general.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was if I had to process actually just being in Boston, like being in a new place without something to do, I would have just gone crazy. Like I think I would have actually processed what was happening, which was like I'm growing up.
Can't have
college.
that.
Can't do that.
No, you gotta have something to focus.
I just ate
all
a lot
of
of
your
junk
energy
food.
on.
That's how I felt. I just like had full on culture shock, depression, sleep for a bunch of weeks eating junk food because I'm like, I'm in America. I can finally eat all the junk food I want.
We were in this stressful ass whirlwind. Like day one, you and I met, and then we were like, we need to find our tour mates. We have to like collect all of this money on like GoFundMe. So we like
right.
I remember
we already started talking about the tour before we got to Berkeley.
Because we started, I think, the campaign like the second day at school.
Yeah, it was already like well on its way.
You remember meeting both of us because we just knocked on the door.
Yeah,
right?
I met you both at the same time. Actually, you knocked on my door and were like, Nate Flax, nice to meet you.
God.
And I'm pretty sure you were standing behind him. And I was just like, who is this posse of people who just showed up at my door at once?
Well, then
I don't remember who else was in the group.
the dorm building. We were just going around saying hey to
Going around
everybody.
and saying hey to everybody.
Oh yeah, because y'all were neighbors. So you're like, I'm gonna meet the people nearby.
Yeah. No, and then we did Boston Calling together.
Oh yeah.
We were
Bumped into y'all
when the
Boston
storm
Calling.
came. Like the storm was.
That was
crazy
a
day.
crazy day. It was apocalyptic.
It
And
felt
a bunch
apocalyptic.
of people were tripping too, I think. And
Yeah.
it was like
Drugs involved.
We hid in that in the food court.
In the food
We
court.
sheltered in the
hid
food court. We played Never Have I Ever.
But I also vaguely remember that was how we met Dan and Hunter, who ended up coming on the tour with us.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, pretty much 3 months into us knowing each other, we went on this crazy DIY tour. All 9 of us stuffed into a van going from New York to Colorado.
Yeah.
That was fun. It was crazy in retrospect. But
I know, we slept on floors. There was one night that is very prevalent to me in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh God, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. Yeah. Wasn't there like a condom in the corner?
Yeah, there was a used condom in the corner. So basically we show up at this house and this guy is like, yeah, you're playing in the basement. It's this like punk house. Don't even know what the deal is. He told us he'd be able to provide lodging for us if we were booking show there. So we get there and he's like, yeah, we asked where we should put our stuff and we're kind of looking around trying to figure out how we're possibly going to be able to rest our heads. And he's like, well, my roommate, he's sort of living with his girlfriend. He hasn't been here in like a month. So you guys can probably just stay in his room. I don't think he's coming back tonight. So we get up there and
it's disgusting.
It's literally probably the most, it's like it was like that show like Hoarders. It was like watching it live.
It was like dusty,
it was like we were
grimy.
A film crew. Just going in to check out the situation.
I remember us like playing rock, paper, scissors or something to figure out the proximity from the used condom. Like trying to figure out because we had
who has to sleep the closest.
Somebody had to be the objective closest to that. I remember us like duking it out
and there was a mattress on the ground there, and I remember we just lifted it up and put it against the wall because none of us wanted to sleep on it.
None of us
we
were
were
gonna
all
sleep
on the
this.
carpet.
I remember there was a show at the Wild Goose I really liked.
Yeah.
That was in Colorado.
I booked that one.
That was
my
a solid
hometown.
one. And then there was the one in Boulder where I played the Gregory Alan Isikoff cover, and somebody was just like, "Oh, he comes in here all the time," and I just like freaked out a little bit.
Yeah.
It was just fun, and we did New Year's. We had New Year's there.
Yeah.
Looking back at photos of that, it's just like we look young. Like we just look like kids.
I know. It was super fun though. It was a super cool experience, and I think the biggest thing about that is that like you were the type of friend that pushed me beyond like my comfort zone. And I think I really needed that. And I was super inspired to just like keep working as hard as you were. And
I feel like, it was such an intense kind of experience. What I learned from like you and from Dan too, is that like I was so like wrapped up in plans that like I lost the people. And I think that like the biggest takeaway, especially now that Noah and I do so much stuff together, I can have a million plans in the world, but it's a lot more about, okay, well, can we all get along? Can we have a good time? Can we like enjoy what we're doing? Are we working really hard for something that makes sense? So I think, the tour was cool, but also like for the time and the money, whatever, we could have obviously done other stuff. My takeaway has always been like, we met each other. We found this sort of friendship that has turned into this cool, multi-year thing.
Yeah, totally. And also, we took a risk, and I think because we all made it out alive, it just kind of encouraged me to keep taking risks and keep trying things and know that like it's all about the journey. And that sounds super cheesy, but it's totally about the moves you're making and the lessons that you're learning and
following through.
Right. And if I had gone on my first tour and like had sold out shows every night, I wouldn't know how to handle that kind of pressure. Like you gotta take the steps, and I think that was super important.
You gotta play the weird punk house in Columbus, Ohio, before you can play the Troubadour.
Right,
like
and now I'm at the point where like I don't really need to do a DIY tour.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing too. When we came back, I think we all were like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that again. But now we know, okay, that's why you get an agent.
Right.
Like
exactly.
That's why.
So someone else can do all those logistics.
Somebody else can do it
exactly.
and like get real venues. Okay, that's why you have a manager so that you're not sleeping in a house where there's a condom in the corner. Though I will say, my most recent lodging was at a BDSM gallery.
Wow.
Shout out to Josh for our manager booked. We were playing in San Francisco. Our manager booked like an Airbnb that said like BDSM friendly. I thought, okay, it's like a very inclusive Airbnb, and it turned out that like all of the art on the wall.
Yeah, BDSM friendly seems like a bit of an understatement for what the place ended up being.
It was all.
It's like, why would they throw that in there?
It was like BDSM. That should have been the first red flag.
All of the art on the walls was like incredible. Which everybody live your life, whatever. But it was like incredibly.
It was
graphic.
BDSM themed. Yeah, is what it was.
Okay.
It was just an interesting thing to have like this painting like above my bed.
Were there like ropes and like?
I imagine there would be if you asked.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There was actually a diorama of our hosts naked with various things on, and that was an interesting Airbnb experience.
San Francisco for you.
That's great.
But managers in general, I imagine, oftentimes avoid these. These lodgings. One hopes.
These lodgings.
Shout out Josh. But what was cool was afterwards when we came back, that was when we all kind of like discovered ourselves, like almost independently. We started, I met Noah, started Sleeping Lion and stuff, but you just put out a record as well. But I think in a lot of ways we're sort of like going back to the drawing board, right?
Definitely. I mean, so we went on that tour, and I also, my first semester at Berkeley, worked on an EP of all of the folk songs that I had written when I was living in Colorado. And that was kind of my main thing as an artist. I just played on my acoustic guitar and like looped haunting, soaring like vocal harmonies, and had all these really sad and slow songs, and met Dan. And he, just offered to kind of work on those songs with me. And so we, recorded vocals in the dorm room closet and just, did piano in the practice room and, just did what we could to make a little bit of a project. And then I put a band together, and then it didn't work out with them. And I felt like, definitely back to the drawing board. So then I joined all these other bands and just felt like I had some things to learn.
Well, that I remember like where I would wind up seeing you would like, you sang vocals with like Matty J. So I would go to all of Matty J's shows and then I was in an indie rock band called Auva. Auva, of course. Yeah. No, that's the thing. Just like remembering, I tried to make every show. Also, you made a cameo, not a cameo. You led in one of WePro's videos. Which
which video was that?
When it was March.
I was starting to do some modeling and acting stuff as well. And I kind of put my solo project on the back burner, but I think that kind of really needed to happen for me because I was so focused on school and I didn't really know how to compartmentalize it. And there was so much pressure I felt associated with my artistry.
Yeah.
And I felt like I didn't have a strong enough leg to stand on to really speak to what I wanted. So it would just be kind of like wasting time if I didn't like learn those lessons first.
Well, that's how I felt going into like the film stuff. I feel like we all wound up coming back around the same time, like coming back to music, but also to pop music. Because you were a music therapy major when you first got to Berkeley, right?
I was, yeah. And then I started looking into the courses required and things like that. And I was like, this isn't actually that appealing to me. Not that it wasn't appealing, but I think I started to really think about my career and what I love spending time doing. And I love creating. Yeah. And I think I felt like with all of that, I wouldn't have had as much time to do that. So I decided to, after speaking with some mentors and talking it out, I decided to double major in music business and songwriting. And I think that was like, it was such a good choice for me. I felt like both sides of my brain were being stimulated day to day.
Yeah.
And, when I got writer's block, I dug into this textbook or, checked Donald Passman and figure that out.
Well, that was what intrigued me about, like, got me back anyway with pop music was a lot of the business stuff. Like, even though I didn't wind up taking songwriting classes, like, I wound up taking a lot of music business electives because it was exciting. Like, especially now what the music industry is like, or when we were starting out, it was the blogs, it was the curation, it was all that. It's like, oh, we can do that. Like, we can do that all from our dorm,
Yep, totally.
I think it was just cool to sort of see that transform. Like, and my favorite song, like around the Boston era, was "My Love."
My love, love, my love, love, my love, love, my love.
when that came out, it was so cool.
So My Love, that's like basically both My Love and Spring. I made with Hope Brush at
didn't know
Berkeley.
that.
Yeah. So they were mostly like live band arrangements, but Hope, did the production on it, and then it kind of developed into what it was, and I put the songs out because I wouldn't have really had people around me that wanted to be a part of what I was doing. I think growing up, I knew that my family was always supportive of it, but it was a different type of collaboration, you know what I mean? And so I just felt like I really needed to be self-sufficient for a long time until I started meeting all these awesome music people. And I was like, wow, collaboration is like what I need to do to like fill in the gaps of where my weaknesses are. Because I could arrange the song and teach it to the band and stuff, but, Hope had that extra push for it that really brought the songs to life.
Well, and you taught me that, like just watching the first year, how like you and Dan would collaborate and interact. Like Dan had theory down in ways that like we were still sort of learning, and like that was what opened me up to Noah, was just realizing I don't know
partnership.
Yeah, I don't know stuff, but he knows some stuff, and he doesn't know stuff, and I know some stuff. Like I think every songwriter eventually comes down to, I could maybe spend years learning how to do this all myself, or I could like get in the game, lean on my strengths, rely on people for weaknesses, and just see what happens, And I think it was cool that you embraced that.
Totally. And I think it's always been a battle for me. I'm kind of a control freak about my art, and I have been burned a lot and let down by people, so I try and have really low expectations.
Would you say you're on the defensive almost sometimes?
Yeah,
like expecting
definitely.
it to happen before it does?
Or just being like, all right, well, people let me down, so like I can only rely on myself, which means I need to be as efficient as possible, and then I would load so much onto myself. And I think like also being a business major, I was kind of like entering the industry like on a high horse about that. I was just like, oh, I know how the industry works. Like, I'm not going to get screwed over by like a company. And like, I was kind of very anti-label, and I was very weary of like finding team members. I was like, how far can I bring this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, when I after I released a few singles following the whole folk EP. So the singles that I released with Hope, that was after kind of like learning things from being in other bands and taking a break from my own stuff for a while. And then I started to kind of like find my own sound that was like informed by all of the music theory I was learning and the jazz I was listening to. And
it's got that R&B, but there is still the folk heart to it, which I love. Even songs that have like heavy, like, funk elements or jazz elements or R&B elements still has a folky emotional.
Yeah, the
like,
storytelling, the songwriting.
Yeah.
It's always important for me that like the melody and the lyrics can stand on their own,
Yeah.
And so when I think about production, I always want to keep that kind of like authentic and organic feeling alive, even if there's like more electronic elements going on.
Yeah.
Which I think is super accomplishable. You just have to be refined.
And it's easy to be,
it's easy to be a maximalist when you have so much at your fingertips.
And boy, do we.
Yeah. Well, and that was like when we were first starting, we were so excited about everything that was there. We're like, what if we throw all of it at the canvas? And I was like, well, what we liked about folk and what we liked about the songs that we listened to anyway were how minimal they were.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, all right, cool.
It's like just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And the best songs are always like you know, as a songwriter specifically, like you want the song that would sound good if you just played it, with single root notes on the piano and vocal. Like a good song just like works in that context. So you even, good production should always be in service of that and not the other way around.
That's what I like about your music is that it has the pop sensibility, but it never compromises for it.
Yeah.
And that, like, I feel like for everybody, that is such a hurdle to go through,
Totally.
So you moved to New York after Boston, yeah?
Yeah, so I worked on those songs and started actually like really forming a band in Boston for a couple years. And then once I graduated, I just up and moved to New York. I originally really had my sights set on LA, but I started making trips over to New York because I got a few show offers and had some other music people in New York that I wanted to collaborate with and connect with. And the trips were just so electrifying and so many like serendipitous and I don't know, like lucrative things happened. Just I was really surprised at the way that the energy in the city flowed and the way that I could flow with it. I didn't feel like an outsider. I felt like I belonged there and I felt like I could be whoever I was or whoever I wanted to be and no one would bat an eye.
Well, I love New York and miss New York. Like, that's who I am. And part of why I left was because I couldn't be there. You know, it's like New York breeds a sort of kind of person that either is there forever or is antsy enough to want to see everything else. And I think that was why I left. But I completely understand the pull.
Yeah.
I remember even just when we wound up crashing on your couch when you first moved to New York, and we all got like, you know, breakfast in the morning. I remember just missing that vibe and that experience.
Bagels.
It's bagels. Don't rub that in. Anybody who comes from New York and doesn't bring me bagels, I take it very personally. But you recently put out this project called Pendulum, which comes from a very personal place.
It does, yeah. Once I put out Spring and My Love, I put out a couple other songs and just kind of testing the waters with different things and working with different people. And
last up with Juan.
Juan, we went to school together, but only for a brief amount of time. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and we actually got coffee and we're like, we should work on something together, you know? We got connected by a mentor that we both shared at Berkeley, and Juan was so busy doing all of the arrangements for the Berkeley videos at the time that we never really got the chance.
It's funny because when we put out our first song, we wanted to stay anonymous. Like, we didn't want anybody to know we were doing it just because we just wanted to see if the songs worked and with everything like that.
And we thought it made us look cool.
Yeah. You know, Lux had done that.
Yeah.
You know, and at that time, we didn't even know who Lux were. We didn't even know they went to Berkeley. We just didn't know who they were. But we really wanted to stay anonymous. And then we get a message from Juan. And he says, I know you guys are sleeping Lion. Let's grab coffee.
How did he know that?
He apparently tracked us down. Like, he had asked a bunch of people.
He just asked a bunch of people until someone knew us.
And so he called us, and he's like, I want to make a Berkeley video with you, which we were excited about. He's like, but I want to make some changes to the song. And I remember at the time we were so lost in our own bullshit.
We're like, who's this guy? He's like, what you need to do is you need to just change the ending and add a bunch more samples like you have in the song. And we're like...
He said, the big thing was like, you have to cut the intro in half.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, fuck this guy. And now
which
we're
in
like...
retrospect, like, of course we should have cut the intro
we're like,
in
oh
half.
my God,
it's
that
way
was
too
the
long.
best advice, because it was a 30-second intro.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need that.
But I mean, I love Juan, but it's just really funny that like the first time we met him,
he was like giving us notes on this brand new baby of ours.
And we were defensive. We were so mad.
Well, I mean,
shout out to Juan,
but also tough love, I guess.
No, I mean, it was good advice in retrospect, and it did. You know, he brought us to Michael Borgado, and we made that video, you know, off of that, and that was a really great experience for us. So like, it's just funny to look back on.
He's a crazy producer. On repeat is nuts.
Well, you come and you go, but baby, this love ain't free. So the record's been broke and we're still stuck on repeat. Yeah. Well, you come and you go, but baby, this love ain't free. So the record's been broke, but we're still on repeat.
Yeah, so it's funny because neither him or I ever really work remotely. We usually prefer to just, have the vibe in person. But we had talked about collaborating back in the day, and then he moved to LA, and I didn't really know what he was up to. And he randomly reached out to me and sent me the demo for High. And there was no top line. It was just kind of like, he was basically just like, yeah, I just like was really tired last night and I made this like weird beat or something, you know? He was just like, yeah, this took me, he may have been like sitting on it for a bit and just like, he didn't send it to anybody else. He just thought that somehow that I would be able to approach it.
Make it be what it had to be.
Yeah. So I heard it and I loved it, and I was super inspired to write over it. At the time, I was hanging out with my friend Amelia Ali.
Hey, she was just here.
Yeah.
I've been texting her all day.
Yeah. So I was hanging out with her, and we had been wanting to write together for a while. but we were more friends than anything. And we were just having a hang. We didn't know if we were going to do anything because there were other people around. But I had just heard Juan's beat and I was like, Amelia, yo, check this out. This is like pretty cool. And she was super inspired by it too. And we kind of started talking about how the song like made us feel and what it made us think of. And then High just kind of came about.
I don't wanna be high, but I'm gonna, 'cause I'm falling in deep. You keep calling me up. You keep calling me up. I don't wanna be high, but I'm gonna.
So we wrote about half the song, and then I had a trip to LA planned. So I came over to Juan's studio, and that was our first official session in person, was finishing up High.
That's awesome.
Oh,
You know, Amelia totally got the whole framework with me, and then I kind of finished up the second verse and did the bridge and added the harmonies and, you know, really tracked. And that was the first song I made with Juan. And then we had another session from scratch, and that was like even better for us to, we already kind of knew we were on the same page.
You're like starting from the top.
Yeah, like, you know, co-producing and co-writing, and the roles blurred, and we were just kind of coming together, which was really cool, and just like bouncing ideas off of each other. And I realized that he was the GOAT. He was the dude, you know. He was the dude that...
He was your person for this stuff.
He was my person, yeah. And I mean, he still is. I love working with him, and I'd love to have his hands on every single project I put out, because like nothing compares. And I feel like he just feels my soul. And he emulates that through, you know, sonically through the music. And so we worked on those few songs, and I was super inspired, and I'd been holding off on putting out like a real project because I had all these songs that felt different from each other, from these different collaborations or whatever else. And I came to him and said, hey, I want to do a little writing camp with you. I have a concept for an EP, and I think that you're the perfect person to work on it. And he was super willing to just, you know, collaborate and give me his time. And we made Pendulum. And when I was 16, I lost my dad to a drug overdose. And that's been a huge informing part of my story and my journey, and what's really inspired me to kind of push beyond his legacy and keep myself accountable for pursuing my goals and dreams without succumbing to, you know, all of the dark forces in life.
Well, when we first met, like that was why you were leaning towards music therapy, was you just wanted to heal people. Like
and help people, yeah.
You, with music now in a different way, you're healing by telling the story and letting that be a part of the sort of healing process, both for you, but for anybody else who's going through it. Totally.
Yeah, so...
Well, take us through the songs, like how you know, like Enough, Alone, Feel It All, like how do those songs reflect the different sides of that feeling?
Yeah, so after losing my dad, it took me years to kind of process through everything. And, you know, grief is such a process. And I think a lot of people didn't really understand where I was coming from unless they had been through something similar. And so I think, you know, music has always been such a healing thing for me. And I realized that I needed to approach this trauma with a creative lens in order to really bring that healing full circle, and also maybe, you know, offer some solace to people who had been through a similar experience. And I mean, we've all suffered from grief, whether it be the loss of a person dying or even just leaving your life, or the end of a cycle of your life. I mean, you can grieve your old self, you know?
Big time.
And so, yeah, I really wanted to approach the process of grief with this EP. So I entered the studio with these 3 different themes. The theme for Alone was basically realization of mortality, because I think when my dad passed, and, you know, considering the way it happened and just how unfair all of it felt, I realized how imperfect the world can be. You know, it's like when you realize that Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah.
That was something that I said on the press release for Alone, because the chorus hits in this super intense and jarring way.
I'm alone. I will always be on my own. I'm alone.
It changes the meter too. It
changes the meter. And you know what's crazy about that is that wasn't even necessarily my intention at first. Juan has an internal metronome. And so we wrote the verse, and it was all centered around this one note drone that really kind of created this intense tension.
Yeah.
We wrote the verse and then paused the music, and we're just kind of talking about the song and where we wanted it to go. And, I hadn't heard the verse in a little bit. I don't even know if I knew what key it was in anymore at that point. We had just been talking. And I had this idea, and I was like, oh yeah, what if it went like, and I just kind of played it out, vocally. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then I see him, and he's working. And I noticed that he's off the grid. And I was like, okay, I wonder why he did that. He must have thrown in some like a bar of two or something.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, because he was in headphones.
Yeah.
He was just taking a moment to work something out. And then he played it, and I realized that he had ran with whatever tempo I was singing that chorus idea in. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
so sick.
but what is cool about it too, though, is that take a song like Spring, where you actually do change the tempo and the meter as well.
Intentionally. That was super intentionally.
Yeah, very intentionally. It sounds very much like you. It sounds like your sensibility and your thing. It's just so fun that's how that comes out.
But it's funny. I was just listening to Alone this morning, and I didn't even necessarily, my brain wasn't on this listen. I wasn't thinking about the meter change. It's a much
natural.
more seamless thing that Spring is oh shit, we're in a new place. But Alone, whatever thing Juan was feeling, whatever thing you were feeling, it's woven together really, in a really nice way.
Yeah.
That just services the feeling, that feeling of isolation and anguish and confusion. It sonically really captures that in a really cool way.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. That's great feedback.
But Enough's my favorite. Enough really hit me when I saw it because I heard everything for the first time at that premiere.
Yeah.
And Enough just really cut deep.
Yeah.
You wrote down your favorite lyric is from Enough.
Yeah. So the first theme is realization of mortality and isolation, and that's definitely just kind of transmuted sonically. And one thing that I really want to stress about this EP is that it's not definable by genre at all, because each of the songs represents the mood that I was trying to emulate and the theme that I was trying to emulate, and we didn't really even consider genre at all.
Well, the genre's you. That's the thing. It's anybody who's listens to your stuff, even listens to the other projects you've been a part of, it incorporates all of it. You can hear as much, Matty J as you can, Auva as you can, the folk. There is the way that you synthesize all of it, a through line of your sensibility.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
And that's not just gassing you up. That is what I got out of the record, which is these songs fit together because you tie them together.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and also it's a visual record as well. Did you start with that being the intention, or was that something that you came to partway through the process?
It was definitely the intention from the get-go, and I think that's another reason why Juan and I work so well together, because his skill set's really based in film scoring as well.
Yeah.
And so his production can feel very cinematic, and visuals have always been an important part of what I do. And with Spring, it was the first song that I released officially, when I knew actually how to do a release.
Yeah.
After my freshman year and after my hiatus, and I sat on the master for 6 months, I think, because I was filming the music video. And I had this big idea that it was going to show as seasons change. And so we started in the dead of winter and ended in May.
Yeah. Then you fall, if I remember, you fall and it switches to this.
Yeah, it's breaking the ice. That's the whole metaphor. But going back to what I was saying, visuals have always been an important element for me. So I knew that to kind of enforce this idea that I wanted visuals for it, but I didn't know what the visual was going to be until after I heard the songs. But I knew that I wanted videos for every song. Do
you think that helped focus the through line of as you were thinking, even not necessarily knowing the visuals were going to be, knowing that you were going to make it a visual thing? You think that informed the process of focusing the project creatively?
Definitely. I think what that idea did was enforce that sonically the feelings need to be emulated. It's not just about the writing. It's not just about the top line. It's about the sonic feeling, like the sounds and that huge saw bass and what that ignites in your body when you hear it. And, you know, I wanted to kind of bring the listener and viewer alike into this kind of emotional journey with me and try and make it as real for them as it was for me when I experienced it.
Well, that's why what I love about the video arc too is that they are kind of visceral in their own ways. The last one, like Feel It All, being visceral in its sort of elation, like in how it does feel a lot more sort of accepting and positive and sort of optimistic for, you know, like you've got it on the roof and everybody's dancing on the roof. But then Alone is like borderline scary. It's like dark and very dingy and red. But I think the thing that like fucked with me the most about Enough was how real that piece was, because you have the sort of almost semi-surreal or like dark sort of twistedness of Alone, and you have the sort of fantasy and the brightness of, but in the middle you have like somebody who's had too much to drink, like stumbling around New York City, and I've been that person and I've seen that person, and that I think is what I loved so much about how those two were married, because it's just you've been there, you know. You can feel, like I feel like everybody in the room felt that moment, you know, of just like, shit, like, yeah, that's why we do what we do. That's why we go to parties, and that's why we drink too much and all the whatever.
We're trying to fill spaces.
Yeah, it's never enough. You know?
So speaking of filling spaces, you asked about Enough, and I just wanted to wrap up the idea of Alone being this isolation and this internal search.
Yeah.
So Enough really is the external search, and it's, you know, after you've been isolated for so long, and that's like really the first grief stage, and, you know, coming out of that, it becomes this need to fill space, this need to like fill the void. That's really what that song is about. And yeah, so the first video for Alone is completely tinged in this red, like I wanted it to feel like a horror movie, really.
Yeah.
And very scary and dark, and because that's what it felt like for me. And you see this character, she's just completely isolated. You can't tell if it's like a dream, like a nightmare or real, but it feels real, but it feels like it's kind of floating in this unreal space, almost like denial.
It was like this dark sort of like a hellish sort of, you know, it's New York, but just slightly surreal, you know.
Exactly, yeah. So that's like that denial moment. And then Enough is like, okay, like this is real. All of this is real, but I need to turn to escapism to like fill those spaces, and what's like, how can I fix this, you know? And Enough is totally the search for that. So our character, you know, she leaves her apartment finally after she's been, you know, cooped up in there for God knows how long, and has a crazy night in New York City, constantly searching for that thing. She overeats at a diner. She flirts with everybody at a party. She rides the subway by herself. You know, she is always looking but never fully finding anything or connecting with anything fully. It's just this kind of detached.
Well, it's that shot
frantic,
in the subway of just like where she just sees the reflection too of herself. Like, just completely just. I mean, that hit me. That it's a great song, but also just a great message too.
Yeah.
I like the line leading up to the chorus, like, I need a quick fix, like, somebody give me it, you know?
I need a quick fix, baby, just give me it. I know it's fleeting, but I just can't quit.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, anybody, come on, like, what you got?
Mm-hmm. And I think actually after writing the song, I realized that I was kind of trying to tap into what my dad might have been feeling when he was kind of in that mode of escapism. And, you know, it was this kind of cycle. He would feel guilty about lying and using, and then want to go back to it just to numb that out. And I think after losing him, I did go through a time in my life where I was like, what's so great about overindulging? Let's feel it out, you know?
Yeah.
You know, what's going to stop me from doing this if love isn't enough?
Well, and that's I think the scariest part about, you know, being in your 20s and realizing that, like, there isn't necessarily anything that will be enough. You know, like that we were told that that's like the journey and the quest that we're supposed to be on, and it's not. You know, instead it's about sort of enjoying the sort of
in-betweens.
Yeah, or the totality of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like at my lowest, I feel like I'm swinging from like laugh to laugh. Like if I can just get one laugh, if I can get like one good moment, like that'll keep me going for like the next. But that's you know, that's looking at it very narrowly. I think there's all these sort of beautiful moments that you pick out when it's not trying to have the whole feast all at once.
Totally.
You know, but that's why, I mean, that's why I love how it goes into Feel It All as well.
Right. Yeah. So Feel It All is the final song, and it's super beautiful and like open sounding, and yeah. So the line though that you wanted me to mention from Enough is this is one of the favorite lines I've ever written because it's super real for me. Because it's like, you know, when you find love and you accept that you deserve love, that should feel like what's enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just not. And that's something I had to come to learn about, you know, being the child of an addict, is that it wasn't about whether or not I could love him hard enough to make him stop.
Yeah.
You know? And that was like a really tough thing to come to. And I realized it about myself too, in my grief. It's like no one I ever fall in love with is gonna
fix you.
Yeah, fix me, or like be the person that he could be for me.
Yeah.
So the line is loving don't pick me up like it should, longing don't give enough, but I know it hurts me so good.
Loving don't pick me up like it should, longing don't give enough, but I know it hurts me so good.
Because it's just like none of it ever, you know, will be the thing that I'm looking for. At the end of the video, she finds herself in the ocean. She's been running all night. She's been searching and searching, and it's external. And then she submerges herself in the ocean. That's how the video ends. And that scene was really cathartic for me, because when I moved to the East Coast, I had a little vial of my dad's ashes with me, and I spread them in the ocean because I wanted to have him, his spirit, his energy just there with me, protecting me. And I knew that I could always go to the ocean and feel like I was with him. And so like it was kind of that realizing, oh, this is there all along for me to access. And in the Alone video, you see me submerge myself in the tub. And it's like that internal, like baptismal searching that just like, oh yeah, that safe space is inside of me, but it's also like outside of me, and it's like there all along, and I can find it.
When you get to have a relationship with your trauma and with your story, like I think a lot of times when something bad happens, we think, oh, well, that's something that happened to me, and we just have to bowl over. But you get to have a relationship,
right?
You get to, you know, have this dynamic. Sometimes it hurts, but sometimes it can actually be the thing that drives you to, you know, I mean, it's driven you to want to heal. You know,
exactly.
It's driven me to want to make things. I mean, the awful things wind up being oftentimes somewhat positive in how they wind up developing their relationship to us.
Totally.
And I like that the project ends on a lighter note of it's okay to feel it all. In fact, like what you should seek out is to get the highs and the lows and have it all kind of live in a not even harmony, but like a thermodynamic kind of ebb and flow.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. And I think when I started to come out of that like numbingness, that's really where the acceptance came in. And the first line of Feel It All is, I'm feeling everything at once. It's always all or nothing. At least I'm feeling something other than numb.
I'm feeling everything at once. It's always all or nothing. At least I'm feeling something other than numb.
And I think it's like, regardless of, you know, whether this feeling is good or bad, it's a feeling, and it's part of the human experience. And it was just kind of like recognizing how fragile life is. Like that's another side of grief that I think isn't really talked about enough. And, you know, every time I tell someone that I lost my dad, they're always quick to say, oh, I'm so sorry, right? They apologize.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think they're really apologizing because they feel helpless and uncomfortable
Yeah.
with the taboo.
Yeah.
So they're apologizing for their inability to do anything about what happened.
In a lot of ways, I mean, grief is the other side of caring. And caring is what makes you human. Like, it's the peak of the human experience is to care about somebody other than yourself.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, I think that grief winds up shining a light through sort of the shadows of it, shining a light.
Right.
How,
You're like, this hurts because I care.
because I care, because I have that in me, and I get to hold on to that however I want to hold on to that. But like, I'm
capable
I'm
of it.
capable of caring. I'm capable of caring enough to hurt.
Yeah.
And that, that it sucks in the moment, but it at least reminds you that you're human, and not just like going about your day as like, a robot. And that's the
Totally.
thing, I could just sit down and work forever.
Yeah.
Like I could just shut off and be that. And I think remembering grief and remembering love and caring is what winds up, thawing out that sort of iciness.
Totally. Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that I could take away, and when people apologize to me about having gone through this, is I say, hey, well, I wouldn't have figured out how fragile life is if I hadn't had this experience. And now I don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Well, and you found a great group of friends. You're close with your family. I mean, those are things that people take their whole life trying to figure out. I think seeing the journey and hearing the journey through this project is really cool, especially just knowing you and where you started and where you are now. Both musically, but also just as a person. Just we've now all known each other 5 or 6 years. Like,
Yeah.
we've grown up.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we've grown up in front of each other. I mean, there's so much growing pains and shit too.
Totally.
We've grown up in front of our respective audiences too.
Yeah.
And we have relationships with each other's art, which is also like a crazy vector to like watch people grow up with as
It
well.
is. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Feel It All video starts with me, or our character.
That's, a little
Like,
column A, a little
the
column B.
character
Yeah.
is me,
Yeah.
surprise.
She's you.
She's
She
an
was you.
actress.
She was you all along. She was with you all along.
Yeah, but I like to say our character because I think
It could be anybody.
I'd like the audience to be able to place themselves in that position.
Yeah.
But it's a continuation of part 2, and so after entering the water, instead of maybe just drowning or staying there forever, she submerges and walks from the beach. The sun is starting to rise. She's been out all night and finds her way up onto a roof to better see the sun rising and really take all of that in. And it's, I really wanted the sun coming around to be this kind of like just an overall metaphor that, the sun rises again after the night happens. And it's just like the ups and downs, the cycles. And then the sun's going to go right back down again.
Yeah. Well, the whole song blooms. There's this liveliness to it.
Yeah.
It feels like a celebration.
Yeah, totally. And it feels colorful. And yeah, it's the first
Vibrant,
totally. So I wanted, those colors in the sky to feel really intense and strong and enough, you see that external search, but I never really fully connect with anyone.
Yeah.
And, I'm moving on the roof and then you start to see these other forms come into play and you realize that they're dancers and there's actual choreography. It's the first time that I'm like connecting with people. And I think it's also metaphorically just connecting with the deeper parts of myself that I've been hiding away and each of my feelings and the different sides of it and just being one with them and moving with them. And yeah, so that's the third one, Feel It All, and it kind of wraps everything up. It's interesting because if we were to talk about genre, I think Alone is this kind of angsty experimental kind of vibe. Enough is more of this like I guess indie rock, like almost 90s kind of.
I mean, it's got that like garage.
Chunky.
Yeah.
Which is great, yeah. But and then Alone has almost like the Grimes, like gritty, like electronic, like squeeze to it.
Yeah, and then Feel It All is this soulful and kind of groove-based vibe that I'm at now.
Yeah.
And it's like once I came to this place of acceptance, I was cool with making music that like makes you feel good.
Well, and that's why like I say it's all linked by you. I remember when we were in the tour van, and you're like, I'm taking the aux cord, and you throw on Hiatus Coyote next to Jack Garrett, like next to
Jack White.
Jack White. I mean,
Yeah.
you have
There you go.
you have all these like genres living in you. I remember, and I never heard any of these bands. So could you imagine, like, for a second, just a person hearing Hiatus Coyote, coming out of, by the way, of like Broadway and folk music, hearing Hiatus Coyote, Jack Garrett's like The Love You're Given.
Oh my
and,
gosh. That song kind of inspired what you
everything.
guys started,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that was the
That was
first
a big
song like I
one.
showed Noah.
Yeah, that song blew my freaking mind the first time I heard it. I was like, "What? You can do that?"
And I think
Yeah.
I think Jack inspired Valentine as well.
Yeah.
I wound up posting about him on Facebook, and Val says, yeah, if you hadn't posted that, I wouldn't have gone down that rabbit hole of stuff. So Jack Garrett launched, I think,
I mean, but what he was doing,
he
like,
launched so many people.
listening back to it now, I'm like, I've heard so much music like this now, but when it came out in like
He was so ahead of his
2013,
shit.
2012, like it was just
He just hit that. And like what I think Worry was like the first thing he ever did on Ableton too. Like he had been playing blues guitar for so long, like trying to do the acoustic folk thing, and then he started like getting into electronic music right at the right moment and hit that like Hype Machine, SoundCloud, Spotify wave, and just like wrote
It was
it
like
to
what would happen?
a
if
beautiful
James
tour.
Wrote it
Blake
on
decided
home.
to like play
Yeah.
blues, you know, like.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Super
you showed me all that stuff, but also like I always remembered that stuff in relation to you. So how all these genres would wind up like percolating, and like I hear the through between Alone and Enough and Feel It All because it's all the stuff you've always listened to. It's all the stuff you've always vibed with. And I think anybody listening is not thinking about genre. They're thinking about Miette Hope is the genre. They're thinking, all right, here's the pop sensibility that sells the song. Like, does the song work? Yes. Can you connect with it? Absolutely. What drives it is not genre. It's the beating heart behind it. And I think you've worked really hard to have that. Like, to have that be what centers your stuff.
yeah. Wow, I really appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you know me. I gush when I gush. Me after your shows, I'm embarrassed for myself. Like, I can't stop myself. I'm just like gushing and cavelling. Like, are you ready for the question round?
You're ready for the
Yeah.
question round.
Yeah.
Do you have any non-musical hobbies?
I've been doing so much music lately. Someone the other day was like, "What do you do besides music?" I was like, I haven't really had time for much.
Yeah, I've been there.
I love collaging. I love
like hand cut collages.
I still have your lighter that you would have as merch.
Yeah,
It's
so
just
I
a
make
collage.
yeah, so like I've never had a steady hand, and I've never felt like I'm really a visual artist, but I like the way I love photographs, and I love the way that like colors and images can work together,
Yeah.
and then I can put some colored pencil on it and make it just look just kind of like distorting images and like messing with what's already there. Yeah, so some of my merch, it's all still DIY. I'm still
I
doing the
love
DIY
that.
thing.
Well, I love DIY at the Troubadour. Like, that's just, that is such a vibe.
Do you have any skills that you don't have that you would like to have?
I think that I'd like to become a better engineer because
Ooh.
I have a
Same.
producer brain, and in sessions I co-produce and I have what I want to hear in my head, but I don't really feel self-sufficient. And we kind of talked about this. You could teach yourself, you could take the
Yeah.
time to do that, or you could just move forward and be able to like find the people that can fill in those spaces. But I think it could be really cool to see what I can accomplish just me and my computer. If I were able to have the rights 100% to something I made and
Yeah.
have it be out in the world, that would just be like such a big day for me. That would like mean a lot to me. And I would be so proud to present that to the world, to
Definitely.
really actually feel solid about something that I just made myself. Like not any extra co-production on it, like completely me.
I get so anxious when I start like trying to produce, and it starts really subtle. But like I get when I'm actually at the computer, I know enough to be able to do it at a functional level. Maybe not like Noah's level, but to do it at like a functional level.
Right.
And I just after 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
Just get exhausted by it.
I get exhausted. I get so anxious, and so like in my head, I'm not the kind of person to be like, I suck, you suck, like whatever. Like I'm not that person to have that.
So you're just like,
internal-
how can I be better? How can I be better? How can I be better?
and I'm just like, I have this idea and it's good and I want to try it. Like, and I'm caught between like, I want like doing 5 minutes of work and wanting to show somebody like this. Look at this thing I did.
Yeah.
Like in order to just like get myself going, or I'm like I suck and I need to do something that's more worth my time. And one of these days I'll finally get like decent at producing. I hope.
Yeah.
It'll just take 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to kind of like do the session merry-go-round because I'm just seeing all the ways that these different producers are working. And like I use Ableton and I work out of like the other view where I'm just like building the loops, and it's like kind of easier for me to just like build one section for a while and like work on that.
But you were always a looper.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it's interesting because like I know somebody that all of his drums are just like audio.
Yeah.
Well,
That's pretty much how I work.
Yeah.
You're like a
Like no
90%er.
MIDI at all, just
Yeah.
kind of like manipulating audio.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's a fun way to work. But it requires a lot of like there's a lot of audio
Shortcuts
and
and-
she has shortcuts and you have to get an actual workflow to work like that.
Exactly.
But it feels a lot more to me like very tactile, like working with audio. It feels like I'm like molding clay. Whereas MIDI just feels like Excel spreadsheets. What would
Totally.
you say your superpower is?
I think that it's like my empathy, even though it's also my own demise. I think that like, especially being a songwriter, like I'm able to feel into other people and what they're going through a lot. And it's really helpful if I'm writing with an artist, because then I can just be like, oh, wow, that totally makes sense that like, you know, you felt frustrated about that. And let's like get to the root of, you know, how we can turn that into a metaphor and
Yeah.
talk about it in an artful way. And so that's been super helpful for my creativeness and just being a super open and feeling person. And it's like helpful in my relationships too, to just like be compassionate and understanding of people. And like also realizing that most of the time when people like hurt you, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's a them thing.
Yeah,
and like
for sure.
having that empathy and understanding and compassion is like, yeah, you're not in a good place right now and you're not being considerate of the people around you, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And it also doesn't mean that I need to like cut you out of my life because you're not considering me.
Well, on the converse, though, what I am very recently learning, kind of in therapy, like especially if you're an empathetic person, the next thing is learning about boundary control in
Yeah.
that space.
Boundaries
'Cause
are so important.
If you're empathetic, you know why people do shitty things. You know why people. You know how you'll affect other people. You're always thinking about how you're affecting other people or how they're feeling and why they're doing the things to you, and not getting enough thought as to, am I getting what I deserve? Like, am I, you know, maybe I get why somebody's treating me shitty, but do I also deserve to be treated shitty? Like,
Right.
and recognizing where the boundaries
Yeah,
are.
it doesn't
on-
necessarily matter how much you understand why someone's disrespecting your boundaries if they are still disrespecting your boundaries.
Right. That's totally why it's my own demise, because
Yeah.
I'm able to say, hey, I understand where you're coming from and I don't hold that against you. And
so
for that person,
you brush it all up, the rest of the
right,
rug,
but for
yeah.
that
Yeah.
person that you're not holding anything against, they're not held accountable to their actions then.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, well they understand that like I'm in a crap place, so I'm just gonna make these decisions and continue to mistreat this person because they understand.
I'm maybe a month or two into like realizing that side of it.
Yeah.
That like empathy is, because I thought empathy was the most important thing anybody could ever be. And then empathy with boundaries equals balance, you know, like that's the
Like our
balance.
song.
Like our song.
I've been looking for
Balance. Also, I like Just Know It too. I don't think like it's not worth going into all of Just Know It and everything, but like that was just such a fun. That was the first time we ever wrote together.
I know. I think that song's like really
I think
pitchable.
I
Like,
do.
we
I do too.
You're just
Yeah.
not the direction that we pitched it. in.
We did like hardcore Zed production to try to pitch it to Zed, but
Oh, yeah.
I loved the concept of it, and I loved that session too because you and I like there had been a lot between our friendship that had just remained unsaid, and sort of that we both had just not.
Yeah.
And
we gotta come to Jesus.
yeah, we were in a coffee shop. We were just like, all right, this is how it's gonna be. We're gonna be friends, and this is all the things we didn't talk about. We're just gonna talk about it, and now we're good. Let's write a fucking great song.
It's nice
And
to have
we
those
did, and
moments.
it just, I don't know. I think if the first most important part of our friendship was the tour, and the second most important was that cup of coffee.
Yep.
Now on to the most important question of Talking Lion. Would you be a pirate?
Would I be a pirate?
Yeah. Would
And
you
she's
rather
wearing
be a
very,
regular
very
person?
large hoop earrings. I feel like that needs to be on the record.
Well, here's what I'd say. I am a rule breaker and I'm a risk taker.
Yeah.
But I also love the comfort of my own home, and I love following rules at the same time. It's a duality. So I'm not sure. I think
You
it
don't
would
have to be, you can
depend.
be on a ship and you don't have to be a captain. You can have the comfort of your own first mate's quarter.
Yeah, that could be pretty cool, honestly. And yeah, I feel like it would have to depend on the circumstance. It's like if my family were pirates, I would definitely be a
Interesting.
pirate.
Oh, yeah.
That's very.
She goes from a long line of
pirate dynasty.
Your new pirate name is Miette.
Yeah.
Smiette.
It would but it would have to be like I would want to be a pirate because I think they're fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just dependent on whether or not pirates were fighting the good fight or not.
I think some pirates were fighting a fight that was better than the other fight that was being
Yeah,
fought.
there are definitely degrees of like there were probably better crews of pirates who were like Robin Hood type pirates, but
Yeah.
also like
Yeah.
it's still like it's like that honor among thieves thing. Like you're
Yeah, here's a follow-up answer to that is that I'm not a skier. And I
I'm not a
don't
skier
like
either.
roller coasters. So
No, I just don't like the feeling of wanting to throw up, and I don't like cold. I would love skiing if it was warm. I would love roller coasters
What
if I
about
didn't have to throw
surfing?
up.
Would you surf?
I would surf if there wasn't
I'm
water.
not a
Oh my
surfer.
god! So what do you do?
I like things that don't require my body to feel discomfort.
Okay,
Like I
I
like
feel that way too. So maybe we wouldn't really
you
have
also
a
don't
great
like
life
horror movies.
on sea.
I like horror movies that have cerebral stuff. I don't like jump scares.
I don't like horror movies either. I don't like being freaked out.
I like a fair,
I'm not an adrenaline junkie. So that's why I don't know if I could live
Yeah.
a life of organized crime.
I think I am an adrenaline junkie as long as it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. No,
I mean, I understand what you mean.
There's
sense.
a very small margin. You play a show, for example. A lot
Yeah.
of adrenaline.
A lot of adrenaline.
No
true.
bodily
I guess
discomfort.
same.
I love the high, like a great date. Plenty of adrenaline, no bodily discomfort.
Unless you want there to be.
Unless you're at the Airbnb you guys stayed at.
Oh my god, yeah. No. Okay, so no
What
bodily
if you're just like on a date and then you take him back to that
the
Airbnb?
Airbnb, yeah. No, that's it also like I was with my manager and so like the host was just like, oh, hey guys, like
Welcome.
like I only know we're here on work. Okay, no pleasure
Work
here.
trip.
No, but a roller coaster, for example, there are plenty of roller coasters that don't fuck with the G-force and like your understanding of what is up and what is down. I love those roller coasters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That just like a little bit of like butterflies.
I like a rush. I don't like when I have to throw up.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't like going upside down on a roller coaster.
Yep.
Like I
That
don't
makes
like
sense.
and surfing. I would love to like be
Catch
on
a sick wave, bro.
like, catch a wave and just feel that. But I hate being cold and wet.
It's about risk versus.
Yeah, it's just bodily discomfort. I love adrenaline. Don't enjoy being a person.
Well,
you know?
that's why video games are appealing. Ultimately,
Absolutely.
it's all cerebral, but it's a similar set of like risk and reward stuff
True.
going on
Yeah.
in your brain.
I can deal with the adrenaline side. I just am just such a wimp when it comes to being even
You're a
a
house
little
cat.
bit cold. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I went on tour with you. I know.
Oh, yes. We went on tour in the dead of winter in the middle of Colorado. You said we got out of that alive. Aspen, almost we didn't. Remember the van slid down the hill?
Yeah. That was terrifying.
Yeah. We cracked the window too.
Do you have any tattoos? And if so, what is your first one?
Yeah, so my first tattoo ever, it's on my back and it's a lotus flower. And I got it from my dad. He had a lotus flower on his back to symbolize his first year of sobriety when he was sober.
Is it like Evie's?
Yeah, so my sister, she has one as well, but we both got them in our own style. And it was kind of just to signify like we are honoring him, but we're not going to follow in his footsteps.
That's awesome.
What was the first concert you ever attended?
I think that it was Kimya Dawson. I don't know if you guys know
I love
who
Kimya
Kimya Dawson
Dawson.
is, but yeah, she's just this songwriter that her songs are super literal and just very kind of, she just really kind of has her own thing going on. So I saw her, but that was like a small-ish concert. My biggest, the big concert that I saw was that girl Vanessa.
Carlton?
Vanessa Carlton?
I think it was Vanessa Carlton, yeah. And I miss you. Yeah, that was like one of my favorite songs at the time. So
A
I
classic.
think I was
Bach.
like 7.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5.
That's a good one.
That's a
That is
great one.
I haven't heard that
Yes.
one before. That's a
Maroon 5 was actually my first album. And
yeah.
my dad gave it to me.
Yeah.
I think he actually gave me 2 albums at the same time. He gave me Maroon 5 Songs About Chain and Dookie by Green Day.
Ooh, that's a good.
Those are two great records.
good.
But I feel like I am now seeing like 2 paths that Miette could have walked down.
It totally wasn't.
Which is like, because I went down the Green Day path, where I think pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie, book, and TV show, respectively? Big pop culture lightning round.
Pop culture lightning round.
Okay.
You can take a second to think about
I'm
it.
gonna add a little.
Favorite movie is Donnie Darko.
Hey,
Nice.
that's a great movie.
Breaking Bad probably is my favorite TV show. I watched it right after my dad passed, and it made me feel like my life was less fucked up than it was, because it just put things into perspective for me because of how messed up everything was. And it was also just like super inspiring to like a lot of my like dark channelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you about to tell us that you cooked meth in the valleys of Colorado just for a sec?
I mean, I write about it.
Oh.
I mean, and you know, I write about my experiences, so
Hey,
who knows?
Hey, who knows? You
could have
heard
been
it-
my experience of
Yeah.
watching the TV show.
You heard it
or-
here first, folks.
And
The
then
police.
book, Just Kids, Patti Smith.
Ooh.
I love that book. That book
And-
is incredible.
Yeah, and that book is what kind of put New York as a dream in my head.
What hit me about that book was just sort of, and it kind of freaked me out in a beautiful way, was realizing that the way she talked about like Janice and like all these, like Jimmy and like all these people
Yeah.
who are legends now, like maybe those are our friends. Like maybe that's how we're talking
Exactly.
about our
It was
friends
just like her
now.
group of friends, and like they were all struggling and they were all like
At the Chelsea Hotel.
figuring
just,
out shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like it really hit me with that book. Like we could be saying the same thing about our friends.
It's like half the reason we have this podcast. Is
Yeah.
that thing right there.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
to be a sort of time capsule on
This era, artistically and politically.
who our
we're-
friends are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
and,
that.
and what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they're afraid of, and what they're excited about.
Aw.
Do you have a favorite sound?
Ooh. I love car alarms. I used a car alarm
Weird.
in a song the other
It's an
day.
interesting one.
Or like,
You like that sound? Like
yeah, because it's
that would
like
be judgmental. I mean, like, can you like what is it about it?
I think the reason that I like it is not that I would like to listen to that sound over and over again, but I like that it triggers some like illicit reaction just as a sound.
Yeah.
You hear it and you are alarmed.
Yeah.
You're like, something is wrong. I need to fix it. And it's just a sound that will do that to you. And that's just kind of like pretty amazing because it makes me think about what sounds mean
Oh
Yeah.
in general. But
That's cool.
another thing that I really like is crickets.
Mm.
And I think it's like makes me think about how there's a clock to the world, you know, or
and
there's like a
crickets
metronome.
Yeah, and that crickets also adjust their pitch of their sound based on temperature.
Yeah.
Like it's a thermometer too. Like the pitch
Yeah.
of cricket sounds is
I
directly related
didn't
to
know
temperature.
that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Which yeah, it's like nature just giving like a little. It's like a clock, but it's also a thermometer. It's like really deeply connected to like energy and temperature and pressure. Like crickets are crazy.
The sound of a cricket is like the most like natural kind of like music
Yeah,
there is.
It really is. Do you have any scars with a story?
Yeah. So right down the middle of my middle finger, I have something that looks like Harry Potter's
Lightning bolt.
lightning bolt.
nice.
I don't quite remember this story, but when I was young, probably like 2 years old or something, there was a humidifier in my house. I think that I probably had a cold or something. We had the humidifier going, and this was before they had been changed around. But it used to be that the steam was like super hot. Like now they like limit the temperature that it can get to, but the steam was hot enough to the point where it would burn me if I put my hand over it. And I think that, you know, my mom was just making food in the kitchen, and I just like crawled over to the humidifier and stuck my hand over it and just completely burned it. And years later, the scar has just grown with me.
Well, you have your Harry Potter mark.
Exactly, my Harry Potter mark.
You're the girl who lived. What are 3 thoughts you have at this very moment?
That your shirt is red,
Yes, it is.
that I'm happy to be here, and that I'm anxious about going to the airport tomorrow.
Nice.
Nice.
Traveling is so intense
It
for
is-
me.
It is stressful.
I like sweat. I normally don't sweat. I mean, I normally don't work out, so that makes sense that I don't sweat that often. But I mean, if I go to the airport once every 2 months, that's the detox I need. It's like sauna.
When you have to rush to the airport and you're doing the math, like
That's
you hit
the worst
you hit
feeling
the
in
traffic
the
and you're doing
world.
the math and you're like, okay, now I have 30 minutes to go through security. Now I have 20 minutes to go through security. Now I have 10 minutes to go
And
through
you get to the airport and you're like,
You're in
I
the
don't even know if I'm
security
going to
line,
make
You're like begging people, like, I need to board a flight. Can
You're
I
like,
please get in front of
yeah.
the line? And they're like, And I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
What are you most proud of?
I think right now I'm the most proud that I didn't cop out. Because this career makes me question everything every single day.
Yep. It's
And
It's a fun job though.
yeah, man, I mean, it's been really hard. It's been really hard on my mental health too, and my identity. And like, there's just so many odds against me too. And this industry can just be super messed up sometimes. And I'm proud of my perseverance and like, going to school and learning what I learned and going to New York and, eating ramen out, not ramen from a restaurant, but,
Oh yeah.
Instant ramen.
instant ramen.
That distinction needs to be made
Cup of
in Los
noodles.
Angeles.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm honestly going to go get Silver Lake ramen after this.
Ooh,
that's
the ramen's great.
Looking forward
That's
to
a
that.
move.
Yeah. So perseverance, I guess.
That's great.
Hey, well, we're incredibly excited. We're gonna be at every show you're at in Los Angeles. Like we're just gonna keep an eye out, see you when we're in New York and stuff. I'm really proud of you, and like you're one of the few people on the show where like saying that wouldn't be super weird. Like I'm just proud
Thanks,
of like
Dad.
all I'm just
I don't have a dad, so
yeah
be the dad that's proud.
I'll be proud dad right now. Like I'm just really proud of just everything that you've done since we've met, and I'm just excited to see where these like parallel trains go.
Yeah.
We always
Yeah.
wind up meeting at different stations, and there's always some cool milestone when we get there. And so I'm excited for for our journey, for our friendship, and I'm really grateful for how long we've known each other.
Me too.
Well, thank you for being here, Miette.
Thank you, Sleeping Lion. Thanks for having me.
Will it ever be enough to bind me, bind me? Will it ever be enough to feed my appetite? 'Cause I'm never satisfied with what I've got. Will it ever be enough to bind me, bind me? Will it ever be enough?
We would like to thank Alan C. for supporting Talking Lion on Patreon and Isotope.